It's finally over, I guess. Your thoughts on the long process? What started as a global mystery, and now it's wrapped up, and
Sure.
everyone's being held accountable, I guess, for
Right.
their
Right.
actions.
Well, again, I start off as I have done in the past, thanking our Massachusetts State Police Detective Unit assigned to my office, Lieutenant Trooper Bob Murphy and Trooper Dan Herman, also David Deacon and Hella Sash, the Assistant District Attorneys, who were assigned to this case from the beginning, who worked with the troopers together tirelessly over a period of years to bring us to this point. This was one of the most tragic cases that I've dealt with in my career as the district attorney. Whenever we lose any citizen in Suffolk County to homicide, it's a terrible loss and a terrible tragedy. It's magnified, however, exponentially when you're dealing with small children. And in this case, we have a little girl, not even quite 3 years old, and it just struck all of us in the office how terribly tragic this would ultimately be. So I want to thank them for their hard work in bringing us to this point, holding Michael McCarthy accountable for his actions, and also holding Rachelle Bond accountable for her actions as well.
On that, Dan, a lot of people, and there's been a lot of talk on social media, on Facebook, on TV and newspaper websites. If people talk to people in the street, a lot of people are very upset that Rachelle Bond is effectively now walking away from this. A lot of people say you made a deal with the devil. Your thoughts on that, and kind of address that. When people may say the Suffolk DA's office did the wrong thing here.
First of all, we don't characterize our witnesses, and tarnish their reputations and so forth by calling them devils, for example. I mean, that's nothing that we would ever do. What we do is we take a set of facts, we find the facts, we analyze those facts, we test those facts against other facts to determine, as best as we are humanly capable of doing, what happened here. And when we did that, the evidence suggested to us that the homicide was committed by Michael McCarthy, and that Rachelle Bond was likely present shortly after the homicide occurred and was complicit in the aftermath of that homicide to some degree, and then also collected benefits for the child after her death. We would never enter into a cooperation agreement with any potential witness without doing a complete and a full and a thorough investigation. That's exactly what we did here. Her proffer of information, what we expected she would testify to, was also corroborated by other independent evidence. When she gave her statement, she said things in that statement that we were later able to corroborate as true. So the evidence led us to the conclusion that Rachelle Bond was culpable for being an accessory after the fact and having committed larceny. And it's then and only then that we entered into a cooperation agreement.
Do you believe you could have obtained the conviction of Michael McCarthy without her cooperation?
There would have been no prosecution of Michael McCarthy without the cooperation agreement that we made with Rachelle Bond to secure her testimony. And again, we wouldn't make that sort of an agreement with any witness unless we were satisfied to the best of our abilities that the evidence that she was going to, the testimony that she would offer would be truthful. And we concluded that the evidence suggested that she was not the killer, that Michael McCarthy had committed the homicide, and that's why we entered into the agreement.
Could you elaborate a little bit more on that? You could not have made this prosecution without her testimony because what?
It would have been insufficient to even get the case to a jury. So without Rachelle Bond's testimony about what happened in the apartment on that fateful night, we would not have been able to get to the jury with that question. The evidence, it has to be a quantum of proof that even gets us to a point where a jury can analyze the evidence. We would not have gotten to that point. So, look, I have been approached by citizens in Suffolk County in the last several months who have asked me that same question. And, I make these decisions very, very carefully with a great deal of assistance from my team. And we don't enter into these agreements lightly or capriciously or frivolously. we could not prosecute Michael McCarthy, and we would not have been able to hold him accountable without the truthful testimony of Rachelle Bond.
What are your thoughts about her release? That was something you agreed to. Is that justice? Is that something are you glad that she's getting treatment?
Well, you know, I've never met Rachelle Bond personally myself. David has, obviously, Hella has, Kara Hayes, who worked with her closely as our victim witness advocate, lead on the case. They have all communicated to me that they believe that Rachelle Bond is sincere in her desire to remain sober and to kick this terrible scourge, this habit, this addiction, I should say, of using opioids. And we're all hopeful. We're all optimistic. And, I've known Attorney Bassil for my entire career, and she has also told me how sincere Rachelle Bond is to turn her life around, essentially. She has nobody, and, it's a terrible thing that happened, and she had a role in it, clearly, in the aftermath of it. But now my hope personally, and the hope of my office and the prosecutors and troopers who worked on the case, is that she is clean and sober now, that she stays clean and sober, and that she's able to lead a productive life as a good citizen of our Commonwealth.
With respect to Rachelle Bond and her sentence, in your view, is that justice?
It is justice. I mean, she served nearly 2 years for her role in this matter. She was publicly held accountable in this courtroom. She has to bear the burden of knowing that she had a role, at least in the aftermath of the murder of her own child. That's something that she will a burden that she will carry with her for the rest of her life. Justice is elusive. It's a difficult concept. We all have to conclude our own view on that. In my view, this sentence, coupled with what she will bear now for the rest of her life, justice has been served. The true killer has been held accountable. All right, thank you all very much for all the attention that you gave to the case. I think Janice is going to speak, so.
Okay. What would you like to know?
Can you elaborate on the treatment at all? What she
She will be in an inpatient substance abuse program, and she is very committed to that, and I expect that once she completes an inpatient program, she will be in sort of further step-down programs and, eventually reach a point where I hope she will lead an independent life free of drugs and substance abuse.
How long is the program, Janice?
It ranges, so I'm not going to say. Thank
Will
you.
it be like a month?
Oh, more than a month, but I really don't want to provide any more information.
can you talk about just her support system, her lack of, what does she have now? Where can she go? What's her
She has
support
me. That's mostly what her support system has been. She really doesn't have family. She doesn't have friends. Certainly, people are very hostile towards her. She's actually quite a strong person, and I think that she will create, in the end, her own support system. But right now, she needs the structure of sort of an official support system through programs.
What does she have physically in terms of material objects that she actually...
Nothing. She has nothing. We actually, her belongings were eventually taken and put in storage, and then they were sort of foreclosed upon by the storage company. We went to the storage unit. I did pull some things from it for her, but essentially she has nothing.
Was there anything in there that reminded her of Bella?
There were some things I don't even think she really knows what we have, but yeah, there were some things of Bella's, certainly. Well, actually, the thing that spoke to me the most was that there was a pair of brand new, shiny, tiny pink boots. And to me, that said a lot about her. This was a woman who had very little money, and yet here were these brand new pink boots for her child because she loved her. So I actually have those in my office.
How would you describe her state of mind in terms of her position now, everything that she's been through, and her own thoughts about her prospects for the future?
She's very relieved. I mean, she's relieved it's over. She certainly is relieved that Michael McCarthy was convicted. That was very important to her. And she was relieved that people believed her. That was also important to her. In terms of her future, she's scared. You know, you all know that she could have walked out of this courtroom, I don't know, about 10 days ago, free and clear, and she didn't want to do that. So she is scared about her future. She has a future without her child. And regardless of what people think about her involvement or not, she grieves the loss of that child every single day.
Janice, was it difficult getting a bed at a treatment facility, basically on who she is?
No, it's just there aren't enough beds and enough treatment facilities, and frankly, it's even harder for women. So it's just difficult. There aren't enough beds.
What had nothing to do with who she is? And
That's all I can say about it.
It was on the, something that was in the record that was reported that, about her name being a problem.
Well, all I want to say is she's in a good program. She's in a program, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
Can you understand you don't want to say where it is? Can you say if it's in-state or out-of-state?
I'm not going to answer any questions about where she's going. I'm not. So.
Is she nervous about walking out? Like, she's going to be out in public in a few days. Like, what's her state of mind?
Well, she will be in a program, so I don't think she's going to be walking out in public for a period of time anyway.
But there'll be other folks, like, she's not in like a
Yes.
solitary.
Right. Yes, of course she's nervous. Of course she's worried about it. She was someone who led a very private life until all of this became, unfortunately, front page news. So yeah, of course she's worried about that. What I have found is when people get to know her, though, and they get to know who she is, that sort of dissipates, and the anger about her and the anger about what happened starts to dissipate once they get to know who she is and what she's like.
Is she concerned about a little initial hostility like she experienced at South Bay? Like
Sure. But it's been my experience, and it was particularly true at South Bay, that once people got to see who she really was, that really dissipated. So.
What pays for the rehab?
I believe that, I'm not entirely clear about that. I believe that, I really don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. But she certainly has no health insurance. She certainly has no job, so.
She was a DMH client, right?
She was a DMH client, yeah. And she also received disability.
Janice, perhaps it's too early because
Yeah.
she hasn't even gone to the facility. What's the long term? I mean, is she going to stay in Massachusetts? Have you had conversations? Will she stay here? Will she go elsewhere?
I mean, she's likely to stay here. I think that she'd like to avoid locations where she was able to connect for drugs. I think she really wants a fresh start. So there are plenty of places in Massachusetts where she could do that.
She does have family. Is there any talk that she will try to reconnect with them? She has a sister. She has a mom. She does have children.
Well,
Or is there any, do you think there'll be any attempt? Does she have any desire to try to reconnect? It's been a long time, but.
well, her children were taken from her. So to the extent that they decide they want to reach out, that's a wholly different story, but she certainly would not impose herself on anyone. In terms of her mother, no. In terms of her sister, perhaps.
Has she ever expressed any desire to start over again with a family?
She just wants to start over. I don't think she's thinking much beyond that. It really is kind of a day-to-day thing.
Is it correct to describe her with her mother and her family that she has as estranged?
I don't think she's really estranged from her sister. I would say she's estranged from her mother.
So she walks out of that jail with literally nothing in her hands?
Well, she has a bag from Target filled with things, but other than that, yeah, she has very little.
Just sort of personal lady things?
Yeah. So she really has, and the clothes she came in with, so that's really about it.
That bag from Target you talked about, that's something you did?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
It's not a big deal, I mean, she needed things, I got them for her, and I hope she can use them, so.
The pink boots they come from the little trunk thing that she
Yeah, we went to the storage unit before it was auctioned off, and we pulled some things for her, you know, what we were able to sort of, some things for her.
It's one of the few little items that she
Yeah,
has in this world.
yeah, it's in a box in my office, so, yeah. And that's it.